What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Hello.
Here we be. We were just looking and so proud of our littlest pup.
I don't even know if we've talked about it.
We had to send her away to jail. She's in jail. She has a 21-day sentence. She is a naughty girl, and she was attacking our older dog. So she had to go away to these special training classes.
Don't worry, my dog had to do it
Yep,
too.
Olive had to do it too. And so our Sophie Pie, we pick her up next week, and they do TikTok videos. And our Sophie was the star of the TikTok video, and we were so proud of her.
Really, really good.
She did really good. So we're very anxious for her to come back into the house. But yeah, she's a little bit of a juvenile delinquent because she's only 4. So she's a juvenile delinquent. We always talk about the Kohberger case, but this I think is something important to maybe point out. They did just recently announce that it was going to be live streamed. What did they say?
I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. But yeah, it was something about...
Hold on. You sent me a thing about it. So I'll look. Go ahead. I'll look it up.
Well, no, I don't fucking remember. So...
Yeah, it was something about, I think it's just going to be, I think it was just that they were going to live stream it.
But I don't think that's what it is. It's something about like releasing information.
Yeah, so it basically says that the trial will be live streamed, and you can find it on the state of Idaho's website, the same website that you can find the court documents on. They said the state do not want the 2 girls who survived. They do not want their faces to be live streamed during the testimony, and the judge allowed it because they're victims. So there's certain pieces of it that won't be live streamed. But the judge denied the defense's request to not have some of their own witnesses shown who didn't want to be seen. So basically what they said was, yes, we're going to live stream it, which I'm actually appreciative of because they've been so quiet about it. So they're going to live stream it. But when the 2 victims that survived, when they testify, their testifying won't be shown live.
But it makes me wonder if maybe they'll cut the cameras, but you'll still be able to hear what's going on.
Maybe, or maybe
that wouldn't make any. Like, well, I get it, but that wouldn't make any sense to be like, hey, we're gonna live stream it, but you're not gonna get all the information.
I mean, not necessarily, because it's not necessary for people to see their testimonies. Only people that need to see their testimonies are the people in the jury, right? And so what I can picture them doing is showing all the stuff, all of the prosecutors' arguments, all of the defense attorneys' arguments, everybody everybody else, because I find it interesting that they even have witnesses for the defense other than Brian Kohberger. Like, who else do they have? Like, that's interesting. And then just not sharing not even showing what the girls had to say, but instead what do you call it? Transcripts, like giving out the transcripts, right? Like having the transcripts available for their portion.
Somehow I'm sure that their testimonies will come out.
They will, because they'll probably be public knowledge, but it's re-traumatizing them. So they're already having to go through this whole thing in front of a jury and all these people. And so not putting them out and there already were national news forever, and the suspicions on them being alive when the others died. Like, I'm sure that is a big
Especially
thing.
the one that saw Brian.
Yeah. Supposedly
saw Brian.
This whole thing is I'm very interested, and I'm actually happy that they're going to live stream it because I'm very, very curious. So that is the only like true crime updated news things that I have.
No, the other thing is the 3 girls that were killed in Washington, most likely by their dad. He still has not been fucking found.
Yeah.
So no update on that shit.
I have a feeling they're not going to find him.
I have a feeling he's either gone, whether that be he killed himself or whether that be he fucking fled. I fucking don't know. But it will shock me if they find him, especially alive.
And I'll say it like this. This particular case with the 3 girls and the dude, this is why I get so frustrated with the VA.
Mm-hmm.
Because his ex-wife had said that he had struggled with mental health issues and tried to get help, and there was not help for him. And I will never understand how we as a country have come to a point where we treat our veterans like shit.
They're quite literally putting their life on the line to make sure that we don't have to worry about that shit.
Yep.
But yet we can't figure out a proper system. If I'm being completely honest, I feel like veterans should quite literally have the highest level of healthcare, mental health. Like they should be put on a fucking gold platter, in my opinion. Like I feel like they should get, I feel like I, as a 24-year-old person under your health insurance, get better benefits than people who are fucking have served their life on the line.
And to be honest with you, I think most people agree with that. So I
think everybody agrees with that.
So I don't understand.
Except for the people that are fucking...
The people that are in charge of making those decisions.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I don't get it. I don't get it. There's just way too many people that served in the military that just don't get proper
the help they need.
They don't get proper health care. They don't get proper mental health care. And it's like...
The biggest one is the mental health part.
The stuff that they see can literally create this kind of a person. So...
I guess thank you to all of our vets that serve, because
of course,
fucking hell, man,
as always. So that's about it in the true crime news world. And so now we'll just talk about what are we talking about. I actually really liked this one. It's not a good case. No, when I say I like it, I'm not saying because I think it was a good thing. It's just
the outcome.
And it was just the whole entire thing was like, wow, there's a lot of detail. There was a lot of stuff, right? So what we're talking about is the year 2015, July of 2015. So that's when we're talking about. And this is in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. The Bever family is murdered in their home, and Robert and Michael are held accountable. 2 killers.
Oh, I've heard the story.
You have not.
Yes, I have. No, I'm fucking blaming you.
I was like, you have?
Like, God damn it, we got to redo a fucking story.
You just blew my... Because I'm sitting there going, I found this. I was like searching.
I've never heard of this.
And I found this and I was like, I've never heard of this. And I started researching. I was like, holy this is...
I've never fucking heard of it.
Okay, so what we're talking about, the Bever family. So first, we're just going to go into just a little bit of background. So the Bever family is made up of... So we have David Bever, who is the father. April Bever, who is the mother. Robert Bever, who is one of the brothers, and Michael Bever, who is one of the brothers. Daniel Bever, who is a brother. Christopher Bever, another brother. Victoria Bever, sister. Crystal Bever, sister. And Autumn Bever, sister. Okay?
That's way too many people.
Now, I don't know if y'all caught on yet, but the killers that are held accountable, their name is Robert and Michael
Banks
Bever. Jane and Michael Banks. Okay, sorry. So if you haven't figured it out yet, the two brothers
killed their family.
Whole family.
Assholes.
Yeah. Now, David, which is the father, he actually worked in an IT department at a company. He was described as a quiet man. April homeschooled the kids. And to be honest with you, the neighbors described the family as a very reclusive family. Not like bad, but just like...
kind of stuck to themselves.
And they protected their kids. Yeah. They wanted to keep them away from the outside craziness.
Shitty world. Don't blame them.
They kept their family so isolated that they didn't let them really do anything, right? Which, to be honest with you, keeping your family isolated from the real world is not necessarily a bad thing if it's done correctly.
Yeah, you got to let them know at least a little bit of what's going on in the real world, because it's not fucking sunshine and rainbows and unicorns.
Yes.
But you also don't have to necessarily, especially as kids growing up, you don't necessarily have to expose them to every fucking hardship that there is in the world, because at the end of the day, they're kids.
Right.
They still got to live their life. They still got to grow up in this shit. Like,
well, and in this household, because they were homeschooled, they were given the ability, it's 2015. They had cell phones and iPads, and, they were able to access like the internet.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't anything really crazy. It was just,
you're not very sheltered from it in 2015.
No, you're not. And they were just they were a really close-knit family. So they went everywhere together, and it was said that the parents were extremely religious. And so sometimes that's also part of it, is they don't want like the demon outside world influences, Now, some of the neighbors had actually said that they were so quiet of a family that they didn't even know the names of all the children until after they passed away. So like, if you're living in this town, by the way, Broken Arrow, which I love the name, Broken Arrow. I don't know why. If I ever open another coffee shop, I'm going to call it Broken Arrow Cafe, because that just sounds amazing. But anyways, this town is a very tight-knit town, and they're a very family-friendly town. So it was a little weird that they were in this town where all these kids are outside and they all play, and families and neighbors always help and know each other, but they did not. They stayed to themselves. Now, some neighbors, though, did say that they had seen some unsettling behaviors specifically from Robert and Michael. They don't go into detail of what they felt was an unsettling behavior, but they had said, like, yeah, you kind of caught a vibe from those two. And so Robert is the oldest and Michael is the second oldest. So they're the two oldest boys.
Oh, that's even shittier.
Yeah. However, friends of the family, people who knew the family, said that April in particular had a very big heart. She was very caring. She loved her kids. So it was very much like she just wanted to protect them. Now, it was reported later that there were claims that David was physically and verbally abusive to his children. And Robert had actually claimed that both of his parents were abusive to him and his other siblings. And he also said that his parents would oftentimes talk about the people that they hated, like how they hated certain people, and how the biblical Armageddon would be their retribution, would be a retribution thing for everything that they hated in the world. Now, I don't know if that's true. There's nothing to corroborate this. And again, you got to realize this is coming from Robert.
You can't ask the fucking siblings.
No. Well, yes, you can, but no.
One.
Two, actually. But yes, you can ask two of the siblings. However, that doesn't give you a right to kill your whole ass family anyways. And we got to remember, this is coming from Robert, who killed his family. So you don't know if there was really abuse or not. Now, it was also discovered that Robert and Michael were obsessed with serial killers. Mind your fucking business, people. It's not a bad thing unless you're these guys.
Listen, it's okay to be obsessed in the sense of that you're interested in the true crime piece. Not obsessed as if you're glorifying what they do.
Well, or
looking up to them as a role model.
Think about it.
That's what they were doing.
That is what they were doing.
That's not okay.
And also because I love a serial killer, but not in that way. Because I want to know.
I just want to pick your brain.
Why your brain works.
Why,
yeah. I want to know your brain. I want to know why the hell you would think that was even appropriate behavior to have,
or
right?
Why you fantasize about it, or why you like it so much. Like, what about
I want the information. I don't want to be like you. I don't want nothing like that. But I will say this. The other thing is that people need to think about is that these children were isolated from the world. They did not have real world communication with anybody but their own family members. Their closest thing to real world outside influences was the internet. And they freely use the internet. Their mom,
you got the dark web.
Their mom did not regulate anything that they looked at on the internet. So therefore, when you have the freedom to just freely look at stuff. So for Robert, it started out with Robert, who actually was fascinated with serial killers. And then Michael also becomes fascinated with serial killers because he's a follower of his big brother, Robert. And they're kind of, they're close in age. They're 2 years apart. So they're kind of like looking at the things. They also become interested and obsessed about school shootings and killings. They actually became obsessed with the Aurora movie theater shooter, the guy that was like the Joker guy. Mm-hmm. They were all about that. So they were in real time when they would see things or experience things, they would obsess over them. And there was nobody there to like point out like, hey, this is craziness. That's not okay. This is inappropriate behavior. You don't do that. Nobody was, because she wasn't regulating what they were watching, right? Because they're also 16 and 18 years old. So why are you, I mean, they were looking at those kind of things prior to that, but that was a thing. Now both boys, the other thing is Robert, again, he's like the 18-year-old. Robert actually had a YouTube channel. And to be fair, his YouTube channel was just like dorky. Like they were showing pieces of it. He didn't have like a ton of videos, but it was like he was trying to be famous, like a famous YouTuber.
I feel like 2015 was definitely the prime time to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Or at least when I was growing up.
And again, when you separate all these things, when you separate them out, right? So if you're interested or obsessed with serial killers, I mean, I'm not going to use the word obsessed for me. I mean, Yeah, okay, we'll say obsessed because I that's all I really ever do. But if you're interested in serial killers on its own and that's something that you're interested in, fine.
Obsession's fine.
But
glorifying it is not
But
okay.
then when you couple that with also being obsessed with wanting to be famous and wanting to be obsessed for
the gram.
murder, exactly. That's when you start, when you put them all together, you're like, okay, this could cause some issues.
The Paul brothers.
True story. Well, and again,
an example.
Without any supervision to tell you, no, that's inappropriate behavior. Oh, you shouldn't be looking at that. It's kind of hard to whatever.
Also, I'm so sorry if you guys can hear
I know,
whatever
I
the
think
hell's
our
going on
neighbor
outside. I think our neighbor is doing like weed
sanding
whacking
or something.
some shit that's annoying. So sorry
Apologies.
if you can hear it.
So anyway, Robert then, after he's been doing all this stuff, then Robert all of a sudden becomes obsessed with the idea of becoming a famous person. So he's totally into all the murders and killings and all this stuff. And then he starts thinking, oh, I just want to be super famous. So he ends up somehow having a conversation with his brother Michael about this. And he agrees he also would like to be famous. Now, it's one thing to want to be famous.
I mean, they're also from Oklahoma, so.
But it's another thing to want to be famous for being a killer, which is what they wanted.
Right.
Now they wanted.
Well, they see probably like Ted Bundy.
That's
and
Dahmer
that's it.
And
you
all
saw
the how
older
much
ones.
fame they got.
Right.
Right.
Even to this day, how much fame they
and that's
still
what they
have,
want.
even dead.
They even stated they wanted a Wikipedia page about them. That was like one of their goals, is to have a Wikipedia page about them. And they actually said they wanted to be famous, even more famous than serial killers, any of the serial killers he was obsessed with. So he wanted to be like the most famous killer. So he had a plan. Robert was 18 years old, so he had a job. And so he would go to his job, he'd do the things. Well, he used his money to start to collect items, and he was doing this for like months. And the items that he was collecting were knives, bulletproof vests, neck protectors, masks, shin guards, helmets, guns, ammo, all this stuff. And he's literally using his paychecks to collect these things. So this brings us to July 22nd, 2015. At 11:30 p.m., the police are called from a young boy. Now, this is 12-year-old Daniel Bever, and he's calling the police and he's telling the 911 operator that his brother is attacking the family. And I heard the 911 call.
Well, and it was probably gut-wrenching.
It was so sad because you literally hear him, they say 911 and he says, please help. And they said, hello, like 911. He's like, please help. My brother is attacking my family. And the 911 operator says, your dad is attacking the family. And he said, no, my brother, please help. And he starts crying. And then you hear like a commotion in the background, and faintly you hear, please don't murder me. You hear a fucking guy voice be like, hello. And then she says hello and it hangs up. It's so fucking creepy.
That shit gave me chills just you telling me.
It's so fucking creepy. So they get this phone call. So obviously,
just imagine the 911 operator. Oh god,
that's what I'm saying.
Oh, bless their souls too.
I know,
Jesus,
for real.
Ooh.
So this is what happens. So the 911 operator attempts to call back the home. Right. Well, I think actually in the 911 call, he does give his address, to be fair. I mean, that's not like, I kind of shortened down the version. So they attempt to call back the house. There is nobody picks up the phone. And so they dispatch police out there because they're like, okay, obviously we need to figure it out. So when the police arrived, the first thing that they were told that they thought it was a domestic, and they were assuming it was a dad attacking the family. Right.
Yeah.
So they send a couple of police. Well, when they get there, they actually see blood, like on the driveway, on the front porch, and they're like, holy fuck. And so they call for more people because they're like, something ain't fucking right. Now they knock on the door and they hear a very faint cry, like on the other side of the door.
Bro, I would have busted that bitch open.
Well, and the thing was, you got to remember, this is a small ass town. Okay, this is the smallest town, and they don't know what they're walking into, and so they're standing on the front porch, kind of looking at each other. And this one guy was like, "Fuck it, I'm going in."
Well, yeah, because their lives are on the
line. They don't
too.
exactly. They don't know.
Those people are sitting there waiting for them
on the other side of the door,
ready to just
absolutely
blast them.
So he busts the door open, and they walk
Brave
in,
man.
and they find 13-year-old Crystal Bever lying on the floor, and she had been stabbed multiple times. She was profusely bleeding. Her throat was slit, and she was alive.
Holy fuck.
She was the one who was crying for help. and they immediately take her out and bring her to the ambulance. Okay. Because they have an ambulance there because they knew it was a domestic thing, right? They bring her out there and they go back into the house because they're like, what the fuck? They go on to search the home and they decide at this point, we're going to go room by room. And by the way, this house is fucking huge.
Well, I imagine just the amount of kids that they had.
Yeah, it's huge. So I would venture to guess that if you're on one side of the house, you're not going to hear stuff until you get to the other side of the house. Like it's that big that they have an upstairs, downstairs. I'm assuming you're not hearing a lot. Now they continue to search the house. And the next people they find are April, who is 45 years old, and 12-year-old Daniel, the one who called the police. They both had multiple stab wounds. April had, she had been hit with something because she had blunt force trauma, and she had been stabbed 48 times in the head, neck, torso, arms, and hands. And Daniel had 21 stab wounds to the back, shoulder, and chest. Now they drag them out of the house, bring them to the EMTs, and they're like, yeah, no, they're dead. Like they're dead. So they're like, okay. So they go back in and they're like, okay. Because now they're going through this house going, are we going to find a suspect?
Basically any bodies that
or
we
are we
find,
going to find a
body
bring
out, right?
Next, they find David Bever, the father. Now he is clearly deceased based on just the amount of blood loss when they walk up to him. He had been stabbed 28 times in the torso, face, neck, left arm, and hand. Now the police then continue. So they leave him there because they know he's dead. They continue to search and they come to a locked bathroom door. Now immediately they're like, the suspects are hiding in here because why the fuck are you locking a bathroom door? So they're kind of like, taking their breaths and they're like, fucking be ready. Like guns drawn, kick the door open. If there's somebody on the other side with like a knife or a gun, fucking shoot. They kick open the door and they find 7-year-old Christopher Bever and 5-year-old Victoria Bever dead. Please hold. I'm sorry. I get teary. Sorry.
Okay. This is the
logical.
This is the logical part of me though. How the fuck was the bathroom door locked?
You just lock it before you shut the door.
Oh, okay. Duh.
Christopher had been stabbed 21 times to the back, chest, shoulder, and lower leg. And Victoria had been stabbed 23 times to both the sides of the neck, both sides of her neck, her chest, her back, and her upper arm. Now, by this point, the police are horrified, emotional, upset, don't fucking understand what the hell they're dealing with, and they continue to search the home.
That shit's got to be fucking
one
awful.
One of the officers who found the two kids cried.
How can you not?
They're children.
Because you also
they're
don't
innocent
know what else you're going to see.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning.
So they're basically distraught and thinking, okay, we got to keep searching this home. And now we have to try to figure out what happened to this family. And there's a hole upstairs to this house they haven't even touched yet. And so they start to go upstairs. Now they're splitting up, more and more people, more and more cops are showing up and stuff. So they go upstairs, and when they get upstairs, they walk into a bedroom and they find 2-year-old Autumn Bever in her crib, alive, untouched, not harmed. And they said in that moment, the horrific things they found had a little bit of light because this one little girl is alive. So they take her out, obviously. Then they continue to search the home, and they actually find that the back door of the home is kind of like open. So immediately they're like, our suspects probably went out this way. So they start a ground search, and they start and they have a big property. It's big property. And so they're following where, like a grid search, right? And as they're walking, they actually start to like see things like pieces of body armor on the ground and like, things that most likely are related to this incident. They brought out their sniffer dogs.
Sniffer dogs for the win.
Sniffer dogs. They brought the sniffer dogs. And so they're like, okay, I think we're on the right track. So they bring out the sniffers. That's right. They brought the canines. And the canines actually catch the scent of something and bring them to these like bushes. And they hold their, they've got their guns drawn, and they're basically telling they can see people in the bushes, but they're not sure anything else. So they end up seeing 2 individuals. And so their guns are drawn, and they're like, get up, hands up, blah, 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 blah. They end up standing up. Well, one of them stands up. The other one is kind of not really standing up. And they realize, holy fuck, this is Robert and Michael Bever. And immediately, I almost wonder if immediately they were like, oh my God, they escaped, right? Because his whole family.
Because I would say, I'm not a cop, obviously, but like my brain would be split into two.
Right, like what are you doing?
Fuck, do I need to, obviously they wouldn't, but like, do I need to shoot and kill you right now? Or did you get hurt and you're running and now now there's still more bad guys?
Right. So that actually, what they said is when they pulled him out, so Robert Bever comes out of the bushes and he's got his hands up. 16-year-old Michael Bever is still in the bushes and he's like fidgeting around and they keep telling him to come out and he won't. They fucking stick the canine on him and the canine got him right on his shoulder.
Good.
And he most definitely came out after that.
Good.
The minute that they put their hands up, they realize that these guys are probably responsible. Because what they realize...
I'm assuming they're not covered in any blood?
They are covered in blood.
Oh.
However, they're covered in bloody armor. So, like, for instance, Robert Bever has his arms up and he has like this white, it's like a bulletproof vest on under his clothes and it's completely covered in blood. So right there, they're like, hold on. Y'all look like you just were part of this bloody massacre, but you guys are covered in like armor. Like this is not,
and you don't look injured.
Exactly.
Initially.
And so they're definitely like, okay. So they end up bringing them back to the cars. Okay. And then what really just, they took pictures. They took pictures of the kids at like right away because they said we wanted to have evidence of what they looked like when we first got them. And you can see like in one of the pictures, they actually pulled up Robert's shirt to take a picture of the bulletproof vest. It was completely covered with blood. So for them, it's like you kind of put two and two together. But what really did it for them is they decide they're going to bring them to the police station in separate cars, obviously. And Robert looks at Michael in front of the cops and says, "It's been a pleasure. I'm proud of what I've done." So right there, they're like, okay.
If I was a cop, I'd be like, everybody turn your fucking
they're like, all right.
cameras off. I'm going to beat the shit out of this guy.
So they're taken to the police station and they are put in 2 different rooms to be interviewed. And now the goal of the cops is to find out what the fuck was going on. So first they go talk to Michael because he's 16 years old. He's actually looks more like visibly shaken than Robert does. So it's almost like start with him kind of weak-minded. Maybe we can break him type thing.
Like maybe he wasn't the
perpetrator or whatever, you know.
No, like he
ringleader.
wasn't like he wasn't the ringleader. So let's, get the little
Let's talk
guy.
to him. Yeah. So they start with Michael. And also here's something that I have found really interesting. So when I was looking up, first of all, I watched a whole documentary on this. I also was able to actually watch the footage of Michael's interrogation, the 16-year-olds. I was unable to watch any interrogation videos of the 18-year-olds because it's been sealed by the courts.
That's fucking bullshit.
Which is weird. Normally it would be opposite.
I would say because 18, you're not a minor.
Correct.
16,
I'm thinking it was too gruesome or something. But it's sealed. You can't see his stuff. So they talk to Michael first, and basically Michael tells the officers that him and his brother had actually started planning to murder 2 months prior to this. It was about 2 months prior to this murder. He said that they had started buying knives, guns, armor. They had over 1,000 rounds of ammunition that they had bought. Now their plan was to collect all these weapons and these body armor and then kill their family. And then leave the family. So they were going to kill the family quietly. So they're kill the family quietly. And then the next day after they killed them, they were going to collect all the ammunition and guns and everything like that. And they were going to head out of town. And they were planning on killing more people, like going on just like a spree, like a killing spree. And he had said that the plan was they thought they were going to be able to kill the family almost ninja-like.
I mean, to be fair, he's not wrong. I bet you
because
they were kind of a recluse family.
That's what I was going to say.
If it wasn't for the kid, if it wasn't for the kid calling, it probably would have been at least a few days before anybody would have been like, hey, I haven't seen them come out of their house at all.
They would have, thank God for that fucking 12-year-old little boy.
Especially because they were homeschooled. So it's not like they had a school that would be like, hey, so-and-so hasn't been here for a week.
They actually, so they said.
He literally put his life on the line.
That when one of them, they didn't say who, but they said one of the 2 boys when they were captured said it wasn't like the movies. It didn't take just one stab to kill him. Okay, so like that, you think about that, that's really where their mind frame is, right?
So yeah, because even if you stab them in the heart, they still have to bleed.
There's more to
like
it,
it's
right?
It's not like it's a stab to the heart and you're instantaneously dead.
Right.
Like it'll be quick, but not what you think.
Right.
Not that I have experience.
So what ends up actually happening is they order all this ammunition to come to the house, and they realize, shit, the ammunition, basically they were talking that night, oh, we're going to have like over 1,000 rounds of ammunition that show up at the house, and they're like, fuck. But like if mom or dad sees it, they're going to trip the fuck out. And how are we supposed to explain all this ammunition to them? So we'll just kill him tonight. That's literally how they decided this, right? And then their plan was after the family was dead, they were going to go out on their killing spree, killing 5 people at a time at gas stations, grocery stores. They'd literally like pull up, kill 5 people, get in the car, drive to the next spot, kill 5 people. That's drive, kill 5 people, drive, kill 5 people. Okay. Wanted to go on a massive killing spree. Now, the reason that they killed the family, according to Michael, because the officer was like, this whole time I'm sitting here thinking like, you must have been abused. You must have been molested. Like something would make you fucking, what made you snap?
Like a Mendez brothers type situation.
So they asked him. And Michael said, well, the reason we killed our family is because they were in the way of our plans. Yeah. Because they were in the way of our plans.
Run away.
We couldn't get our ammunition without them asking questions, so we might as well just get rid of them. So their goal,
who the fuck thinks? Oh, geez.
So their goal was to become famous and to set the record for the most murders. That was literally what they were trying to do.
Wow.
Now, Michael also tells the police officers that, well, I didn't kill anyone. My brother killed everybody. And then he's like, well, I mean, I killed my brother. I stabbed my brother. But like Robert did all of it. And they just kept like, as he's talking, they're like, this just seems very weird that that's weird that you're saying that your brother pretty much did everything. However, he was found and he had blood on him as well. And they knew that he had to have had more to do with just stabbing one brother, especially since they all had so many stab wounds. So they talked to him some more and he's like, no, I didn't do anything. And at one point they had asked him, well, I can't, it's really hard for me to believe that you guys would spend all this time, creating this plan and you're going to let Robert take all the credit. They're using the word credit,
manipulation.
And he doesn't bite on it. And they said, okay, well, you know what? I think we're going to go talk to Robert for a little bit. And he's like, okay. So off they go. They talk to Robert. Well, when they go talk to Robert, they said Robert was so forthcoming with his plans. He was like actually proud of him, that he was like diarrhea of the mouth, telling him all the things that they did, smiling, laughing. He tells them that he wanted to become a famous serial killer and he wanted to kill a bunch of people. He tells the officers that, yeah, of course, his brother was involved in the killings too. He said that he killed his mother and his brother. Okay. Now, the 2 boys had actually planned out the murders. So first what happens is Michael goes out into the living room. It's like, the evening. He goes out to the living room and he says to his sister, Crystal, he's like, hey, Crystal, come here. I want you to see something on my room, in the computer, on the internet. She's like, okay, cool. So she follows her brother into the bedroom and she's like at the computer with him and he's trying to bring something up. Well, as she's doing that, Robert comes up behind her and cuts her throat, slits her in the throat. And she fights like fucking hell.
Well, obviously, she's the one that survived.
She fights like fucking hell. She starts screaming. She's thrashing. They're stabbing her. Well, when this happens, April, the mom, hears it. She thinks they're fighting. So she comes running in the room. And as soon as she walks in, Robert turns and starts attacking her. And then, of course, Michael's right there and also does it and ends up killing the mom.
What the fuck do you do as a parent? You're a parent of 2 children. What would you do if you thought my brother and I were fucking wrestling and you come in and one of us is actually killing the other?
I don't know, because this is no, it's going to sound like shade towards the parents. I promise you it's not.
I feel like I'd have to kill my kid.
I have such a hard time even understanding how that kid, neither one of those kids are big kids. As a matter of fact, Michael, the 16-year-old, looks like he's about 12. So I have a really hard time understanding how these kids who are not very strong, I don't understand how not one of the parents were able to fight them off. I understand that he had weapons. I get that. But I just am not really sure how that happened because the 13-year-old girl was able to fight him. So it kind of blows my mind. But they had actually, one of the officers said that when with the 18-year-old, he was physically small. And so they were like, for him to have never been in a fight in his entire life, I'm sure it took him by surprise that she even tried to fight him. And she did. And I mean, look what she did. You're correct. She survived. And so she, as they're attacking the mom, basically, she ends up leaving the room and goes to the front door and tries to go out of the house. That's what she does, which is why there's blood like on their front porch and stuff. So she goes out and she ends up collapsing like in the like front lawn dirt, area. But they end up killing April. Now, next they go for Daniel. Now, Daniel's the one who called the police. So Daniel already had seen the interaction, or at least heard, I think he saw it. And he grabbed a cell phone and ran into his room and locked the door. And that's when he calls 911. And he tells them, please help me, blah, blah, blah. I apologize in advance. This is hard to hear. It's not graphic, but it's very fucking hard to hear. So as he's on the phone with 911, Michael is knocking on his door, begging for help. Daniel goes to the door, thinking that he's saving his brother, opens the door, and there is standing Robert and Michael. Now in the 911 call, that's when you hear him say, please don't murder me. And then Robert's voice, I'm assuming Robert's voice is the one that says hello. And I don't know if he was saying hello on the phone or if he was being creepy. I don't know. They end up killing Daniel. Now, at this point, they now have noticed that their 7-year-old and 5-year-old brother and sister have ran and locked themselves in the bathroom. And so they go to the bathroom where Michael again tricks them to open the door because he says, Robert's going to kill me. And those two little kids, 7 and 5 years old, did everything right. They ran, they hid, they locked the door. And if they would have just stayed with the door locked, they would be alive, right?
Oh, fuck, maybe.
They would have been alive because those kids weren't strong enough to kick in that door. That's what I'm saying. They were scrawny. But they wanted to save their brother. So they trusted him and they opened the door and they were both killed. And the part to that just gets me is why? They were 7 and 5. They were 7 and 5. You could have left him there. You could have just left him there. Okay, so that...
I mean, I'll never be able to wrap my brain around this because I'm an older sister.
Of course
so I'm like
you
them.
want to protect your younger siblings.
I'm like them. I'm the oldest sibling.
You want to protect...
if somebody goes to my brother and hurts him, I'll put my life
on the line. By the way,
line.
her brother is like 6'1".
He's way bigger than me.
Pounds.
But that... I will fight, kicking, screaming, doing everything I can to protect my brother, even though he'd probably be able to handle it.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine or even you guys too as my parents, but I'm just saying, like, I cannot imagine watching the life be taken out of my brother by my own hands.
And again, tricking them.
Exact manipulation.
I just don't get that. And that, by the way, was Michael. The 16-year-old is the one who did that. He did that. And Robert helped kill. I mean, obviously Robert killed and so did Michael.
Right.
But Michael
but
did
it's almost
that.
like Michael's more fucking twisted because he had he had the capability to fucking manipulate and be able to have that switch of like, I'm going to fucking tease these kids. So that's almost more sickening.
Yeah, I know.
In a twisted ass way.
So they end up killing both of them. By this time, David is awake. So he had been
like, where the fuck is his dad?
He was sleeping. And again, this house is a big house. And so a lot of the commotion at first he didn't hear. Well, he ends up hearing this commotion and he comes out and they actually said he went running after Robert.
Well, duh.
And they said they don't know how it happened, but Robert must have just gotten a lucky fucking shot because it was dark and Robert reaches out, stabs his dad and he instantly falls. So wherever he stabbed him,
he had to have hit a major organ.
He stabbed him somewhere that basically incapacitated him in some way with one stab. And so,
although who knows, maybe dad was a scrawny motherfucker too.
No, I saw the dad. No,
okay. I was like,
that's
maybe.
why to me it was like, oh, he just got luck. I mean, he got lucky. So wherever he stabbed him was an incapacitating stab, and then they murdered him. So they kill the dad. Now they then move to go upstairs to kill their 2-year-old little sister. As a matter of fact, it was stated that Robert had told Michael that he wanted to decapitate her.
What the fuck?
And they got up into her room, and she was in her bed, and they heard knocking on the front door. And immediately they ran. And the knocking on the door was the cops. So thank God the cops showed up.
And those are the times where you just go, could have just fucking...
But thank God the cops showed up when they did, or they would have decapitated a 2-year-old little girl. Oh, and also, let me backtrack a little bit. So they were going, before they headed upstairs, I guess I should say. Before they
how'd the sister get back in the house? That's what I was wondering about.
I forgot that part. So before they head upstairs, they know that Crystal had ran out of the house, but they knew that she was not going far because she was fucked up. Fucked up. So Robert goes out and he sees her. She's collapsed in the front of the house, and he grabs her and he puts his hand over her mouth until he thinks she has died. He thinks he suffocated her, and he drags her body back in and leaves her on the floor.
Smart bitch. Good girl.
I don't know if she did it on purpose or not, but whatever. Maybe she just passed out. Like, I don't know.
Something tells me she did. Good girl.
So they leave. So now this is happening. So this is where the cops come in, right? They come in. This is how it happens. Now they're talking to Michael, and Michael is telling them all of this in detail. That's who told them about all this, is Michael, the 16-year-old.
Interesting, because I thought he was the one that was saying, I didn't do it.
Yes, he was. Until they came back in after they had talked to Robert and said, well, now Robert told us that you killed your mom and your brother. And he goes,
and
okay,
then he
yeah,
had
maybe I think
or diarrhea of the mouth.
Yes, he said, okay, yeah, maybe I think I did. That's what he told them.
Motherfucker, what?
But you should see him in the interview. You can tell he's like dazed. He's fucking dazed. Like, you can come. It's not like evil. I mean, he's evil. I don't mean that. But I mean, in the moment, you can see that he's almost like doesn't really feel comfortable with what happened. And almost like he's not really sure what the fuck. Like, is it real that they actually did this? Like, he was in a weird daze. But he does. Then, yes, after they basically say, like, listen, your brother told us all this stuff. He was like, okay, yeah, maybe I did do that. And then he just like word vomited everything. So he just tells them all this shit in detail. So they had asked him, well, how do you feel about everything that's happened to Michael? And Michael's like, I don't like how I feel. I don't like it at all. And they said, well, are you willing to write a statement saying all the things that you've told us? And he said, yeah. So he wrote a statement that detailed the plans that they had made, which also included making a video. They wanted to make a video of what they did. See, because here's the thing. Their original plan was just to kill everybody, stay in that house, and then leave the next day once they had collected their ammunition that was coming the next morning. So their thought was kill everybody, take a video of the house with everybody dead. Then later they would release it on YouTube to say, look what we did. He also talked about how they planned things, what they did when they planned, what they bought. And he even wrote about the fact that their plan was to kill at least 500 people. That was what their plan was.
First of all, I don't think they would have ever been successful with that.
Never, because they were not. First of all, they were not smart enough to get away with killing 500 people.
First of all, the second that you would have posted that, bitch, they have your IP address and they'll track you.
They're finding you.
Done.
But their goal was, but that's what he was saying. Like, they start with the family, then they kill 5 at a time, and like jump town from town to town to town to town, and just do a mass killing. And their goal was to have a total of 500 people at least, because they wanted to go down in history as like the best mass murderers, I guess. Now they had forensic psychologists come in and talk to them, because they're like, there has got to be something fucking mentally, because you know, in the world of crime, in particular people who murder, we're always looking for like, oh, they were abused,
the why, oh yeah,
oh they grew up in a shitty, you know, they're the why, correct, the why as in why would you do this?
And that's typically your first thought. Is
and it's
abuse,
normally
mental,
something
physical,
something
sexual,
happened to these people. Yeah, there's something wrong.
Of some sort.
Yes, there's something wrong with them, because no person who doesn't have a mental health issue would never be a killer, right? That's kind of the thought.
Right.
No. In the world of crime, and I say this all the time, sometimes you're just born shitty. Sometimes you're born just a bad motherfucking apple. And there's
people that are born evil.
These boys were born bad. They had no mental illnesses were found. They did all kinds of testing and questioning. Nothing about them screamed mental health. However, the forensic psychologist did say, and this is what we alluded to earlier, they were born bad, he said. And he even said that, he goes, sometimes people are just bad. That's just a natural thing. Like, people sometimes are just bad. And he said, but in this particular scenario, what may have helped them reach this level was the fact that they were able to unsupervised watch anything and everything on YouTube with nothing to, sense reality versus not reality.
Well, and obviously also unsupervised of all the shit you're collecting. I understand that the ammo, they didn't get the ammo technically, but like, I'm going to tell you right now, if you were to walk into my brother's room and see all this fucking gear, you'd probably look at him like, what the fuck you doing with all that?
So the parents were told by the 13-year-old sister that she had seen them collecting a bunch of knives and stuff. And the parents were like, oh, it's not a big deal. So
what the fuck?
They did know that this was going on, but they weren't concerned about it.
Oh my God.
However, basically the thought process, well, you don't think your child is ever going to be a murderer.
Okay, but if my kid's collecting knives.
My son has knives. He's got about 50 fucking knives. He collects knives in every state we go in.
Sir.
And I have zero issues with it. I don't have any issues with it. It's not just because you collect knives or just because you collect guns doesn't mean you're a serial killer or a mass murderer.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie though. I thought you were talking about like hiding the kitchen knives.
No, he was buying. He was buying like army like knives. So,
I mean, a simple so you're into knives,
and maybe they did. Maybe they did, but they weren't concerned with what they were finding.
Let me just preface with, I'm not shitting on the parents. I know it sounds like that, but I'm not shitting on them at all.
No, because hindsight's always 20/20, right? You're always going to be like, well, why didn't you do this? Well, in the moment, you love your children and you don't think they're capable of anything bad. People don't, you know what I mean? You just don't think so. And so that was, and the Crystal apparently was nervous because she also knew their fascination with serial killers. See, the mom didn't know those things because she didn't supervise what they were doing.
Right.
So it was just like,
which especially makes sense for Robert because he's 18.
Correct.
And Michael's 16.
Correct.
So they're at an old enough age.
They're old enough
where you're not really going to supervise them because they're getting to that adulthood phase where you're like, all right, well, you're going to be out on your own at some point anyways.
Right. But I want to make it very clear. These two boys are not and do not have any sort of mental health issue.
They're just fucking piece of shits.
Bad. They were born with an evil streak in them. And that's it. And that just sometimes, unfortunately, has to be the answer. We can't always explain away why somebody did something.
Satan birthed them.
For real. Now, the two boys were actually charged, both of them were charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of assault and battery with the intent to kill their sister, Crystal.
Right.
Now, Robert was 18 at the time of the crime, so he was automatically charged as an adult, which also made him eligible for the death penalty in the state of Oklahoma.
Good.
Michael was 16.
Please tell me they charged him.
They decided to charge him as an adult.
Thank God.
Now, the prosecuting attorney, it was really tough because he's like, I had 2 sets of lawyers that I had to deal with. And he said, and I have this 13-year-old girl who is literally a key witness that I don't want to make her go on to the stand. I don't want her to have to tell her story. She in the hospital had said, my brothers tried to kill me. We don't need to put her through this, right?
How do you as a sister, like, how
do
you
you
be able
live?
To face them?
That's what I'm saying. So they wanted her to not have to go to trial at all.
Fair.
So they talked to her. I loved this prosecuting attorney. He said, I sat down with her for many, many hours and said, like, what do you want me to do? I can put your brother on trial for the death penalty, but there has to be a trial for that.
Right. Which means you
have to testify. And after many conversations with her, it was decided that they were going to offer a plea deal to Robert for no death penalty in exchange for his guilty plea. And it was strictly because they did not want to make the 13-year-old testify against her brothers.
I'm okay with that.
It was such a traumatic event for her. The attorneys were like, I don't want her to have any interactions, first of all, with her brothers.
Well, she's now a fucking orphan and she
was
the first one to almost get killed.
Yes. And they don't want her to have to talk in front of strangers, much less face her brothers.
Yeah.
Okay. So the prosecutors offer the 5 life sentences to Robert. He says, yep. So he pleads guilty to the 5 murders and receives 5 life sentences without parole. He gets an additional life term for attempted murder of her. Okay. So he gets basically six life sentences. This again.
So he will die in prison.
With no parole. So he will die in prison. And again, that sucks.
Okay.
I mean, it sucks because he's 18, so he's got a long ass life. He's gonna be in prison forever.
That doesn't suck though, motherfucker.
I mean, it's your punishment, sir.
What you
it's your punishment. Now, again,
if it ain't death, that's the next best
this
fucking
was
thing.
Purely to save Crystal, right? So then they go to Michael's attorney and they're like, okay, this is what we want. We want to give you 5 life sentences, same as Robert. They get the same sentence basically. And his attorney says, absolutely not. He said, I will not be taking a plea deal.
What the fuck?
His attorney said he is 16 years old. I'm shooting that he gets charged as a juvenile, not as an adult. He said, I am planning on doing an insanity plea. And he said, we are going to trial. And this was heartbreaking because Crystal now...
First of all, you lawyer, I know it's your job, but
I know.
You're a dick.
Well, he was trying to find a way to protect his 16-year-old client, which is that's their job.
No, that's what I'm saying.
And I get it.
God.
So it's heartbreaking because this forces Crystal to have to go to the trial and testify. Especially because if she doesn't, then there's a chance her brother doesn't get charged. So it's like you have to.
And I'm sure she knows that. She's not dumb.
Right. So she ends up going to the trial. She is questioned. She ends up testifying in front of all these people, the strangers of the court, the jury, the whatever. And she has to face her fucking brother and testify because he's sitting in the courtroom. And
I wouldn't even be able to look at him.
Robert also is called to the stand in his brother's trial. And Robert literally backtracks his confessions and takes credit for everything and tells them that Michael didn't kill anybody. Basically, he's trying to protect his brother.
Yeah, because if his brother walks, his brother can keep on keeping on.
Now, he also was laughing at inappropriate times throughout the trial. He would smile.
Michael or Robert?
Robert. He would smile about things that you should definitely not be smiling about. When he was arrested, he was smiling. When he got caught in the woods or in the brush and they brought him out and they took the pictures of him all dirty, I'll show you. He is smiling. Okay, so he's just that person. It takes 6 weeks for this trial to go. When the day comes when they're going to say whether they're guilty or not guilty, apparently every trial or every jury member was crying. It was so emotional because this 13-year-old girl had to testify against her brothers. Also, this is a 16-year-old boy that you're making a decision, which regardless of how you look at it, yes, I know they're evil, but it's still a 16. And again, like I said, when you see him, like when you see a picture of him, you look at it and you're like, he just looks like a meek little kid. So the whole thing was emotional as fuck. So Michael is found guilty of 5 first-degree murder counts and 1 count of attempting to kill his sister. He is sentenced to 5 life sentences without parole and 28 years for attempting to kill his sister. That's what you get. You went to trial and you lost. July 15th of 2019, Robert actually tried to attack 2 prison guards at the Joseph Harp Correctional Center. And on
you think he's Mr. Tough Guy? The fuck?
November 17th of 2020, Robert is sentenced for that attack too, and he had 3 more life sentences added on. So if you're counting, he has a total of 9 life sentences.
Also,
now.
Dude, do you think getting more life sentences is going to make you famous?
The fuck
it ain't.
I think that's what we're talking about right now is it sucks because he's kind of getting what he wants. He is causing enough problems that he keeps getting talked about. And he now has, what does he have left? Nothing. He has literally 9 life sentences. He will never get out of jail. So what can he do? Just make a fucking ruckus of everything.
But here's the thing, though. Here's the one thing that's kind of like, haha, fuck you. There are stories of people doing the same, not the same crime, but like the same type of shit on the fucking East Coast that we hear about here in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Bitch, I've never heard of you before.
That's
so
what I'm
guess
saying.
what? You ain't that famous, motherfucker.
And you want to know something real crazy is the Wikipedia page. Like they do have a Wikipedia page, but it is not for Robert and Michael Bever. It is for the Broken Arrow murders. So it's not even their name. So when it's hard to find it, right? Better. So Robert is currently serving his sentence in Oklahoma State Prison. And Michael is currently serving his sentence in Lexington Correctional Center.
Oh, thank God. I was like, please tell me they're not together.
So according to Oklahoma law, they are not allowed to be in the same facility because they're co-conspirators of the crime.
Which makes sense.
So they'll never be in the same
It's never
prison.
made sense to me why co-conspirators sometimes can be in the same fucking prison. How does that make any sense?
Now, the Bever family home, after this happened, it sat vacant for quite some time. And people showed up there. It's just so weird. Like, listen, I'm a true crime fanatic and I'm a serial killer fanatic, but I'm not showing up on somebody's property where a whole family was murdered and then like breaking into the house to look at it. I'm not doing that. I might go to Alcatraz where it's a museum. I might go to a house if it's owned by somebody who is willing to open it up and share the stories, like the Lizzie Borden house and stuff. But I'm not just going to somebody's random property and being a fucking nosy bitch, right? But that's what happened, is it sat vacant and people would break in. They would show up and then they started to be like, oh yeah, I went to that house where that whole family was killed, and it became a fucking circus, right? Until it burns down. Now, the suspicion is that it was arson. But honestly, there were so many people that would come and go into that house. It very well could have been something.
Bro, if I was a sister, I would have gone there and burned it down myself.
For fucking real.
I'm not going to lie.
For real. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, that whole thing, it's like, well, okay, so it burns to the ground. And it's almost for the better that it burns to the ground.
Yeah.
So since that house has burned down, it was torn down. It ends up getting torn down. And what was left of it. And the city of Broken Arrow bought that property and they turned it into a park that's called Reflection Park. So the house is gone, but there's this beautiful park and it's got all this really nice, like, places where you can sit and reflect, I guess. They had a whole dedication ceremony and they basically said, like, we were trying to bring something beautiful out of something horrible. And then the only other update, which I will never be intrusive because everybody should know that by now, the 2 surviving siblings were put into the state care and most likely adopted out. But I didn't even look that far because it's their right to have a privacy. I didn't look to see anything about them because I feel, and I've said this before, victims do not deserve to be stalked, and they don't deserve to have their life people intruding and inserting themselves in their life. I will never do that to a victim. If for some reason, either one of those girls were to ever come out and want to tell their story, that's on them, but I would never search to find out, because I'm sure if I did a deep dive, I'd probably be able to find out if they got adopted, and I could find that shit out. I found it out on other fucking victims before, but I won't tell you about it. Because it's not our business to be in the lives of people who are victims of crimes.
The one thing that I hope, it's going to sound shitty of me, but the 2-year-old, you were at least young enough that
she doesn't know.
Right? You're not really getting
yeah.
You might be able to say when you're older, like, oh, I have a memory of my family, but not really. You know what I mean?
Right.
But for Crystal,
that's going to be tough.
All I hope for her, so if she ever hears this, all I hope for her is that she finds peace and the help that she needs.
I do too.
Because it's gonna be a hard fucking road.
Which that is
why she can thrive. But I don't even know her, and I feel like this bitch can thrive.
That was 10 years ago. She was 13, so she'd be only 23 right now.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm sitting here and that's the same thing. And that right there is why
I'm only 2 years older than her.
But see, that's why I will never put that on blast. Because let's say she did thrive. Let's say she did go through intensive therapy. She should be able to do that in
her own peace.
Exactly.
In her own life.
That nightmare should never be something that
she should not have to relive.
Her. Nope.
Like, I know we're doing the podcast, but she should not have to relive that moment.
Listen, I do not do podcasts because I want to re-victimize victims. And I do not do podcasts because I want people to be nosy about the victims. I do podcasts because I'm genuinely interested in why people's brains work the way they do. And I'm interested in true crime and why it happens and what happens. But if you notice, I always talk about the background and I talk about the crimes and I focus on the people who are responsible, the perpetrators, because in my mind, that's what I care about. And not because I want to make them famous and not because I want to make them, martyrs. I want to show people, first of all, how bad our system fucks up a lot. A lot of the crimes that we see are repeat offenders who have continually been let out of jail or have continually had passes. And then I also want to point out there is a side to crime that sometimes is unavoidable because of mental health or people like these boys who are just not good kids.
I'll say there's also the side of crime where there's no mental health excuse.
That's what
and
I'm
you
saying.
Sit there and go,
those are the things.
I can't fucking tell you why they did it.
Yes.
Just for fun.
Evil
I
exists.
Guess.
So it's like, for me, that's what I like to focus on because unfortunately, and maybe this makes me psychotic, I genuinely am interested in those aspects of people's brain. I really, truly
The why. That's what I get interested
want
in.
to understand. And I know we'll never understand, but it helps me learn. I learn so much. I do this because I love learning. And the things that I learn here when I do all these podcasts, one of the things I also have become is very vigilant in my own life. I use what I learn in true crimes, particularly on how I'm going to live my life to make sure I'm never a victim. I'm very careful on what I do, where I go, when I go out in public and places. It's educational too. But I want everybody to know very much so. I would never, ever bring up the victims unless, and you guys will know, unless
Something
there's
good
a
came out of
good,
it.
yes,
Yeah.
unless something good came out of it. And a lot of the times it's something good as in, oh, there's a charity that you can do for them.
Like the past couple podcasts
Yes.
that we've done.
That's the only time. And the
it.
only reason I do that is because that is very easy public knowledge to find.
And sometimes it's a good, like, hey,
yep,
you should teach
you should
your
do that.
children or
Yep.
your school. Or,
I will never,
you know.
ever share with you guys something about a victim that is hard to find, because that means that they don't want it found. And I will never search that hard.
But again, they've had to live through that hell. They shouldn't have to live through it again.
I do the most basic searches because I'm not here to investigate. I'm not an investigative fucking podcaster. I'm not an investigative reporter.
Right.
I'm here to tell you the story so that you don't have to go through the 17 different articles that I do to create a story. But that's all I'm doing. I will never be intrusive into another person's life. So that being said, please know the two that survived, I know nothing about them other than the fact that they were put into the state custody and they did survive. That is all I know.
Also, don't be nosy. Let them live their life.
Yeah, mind your business and just be satisfied with the story about their brothers instead. Which I don't even want to call them brothers because they're garbage.
Get beat the fuck in jail. Or prison.
So this was all the story. And I'm going to say it again about the Broken Arrow murders with the known named killer brothers that don't deserve to be glorified. So if you like the things that we talk about, if you like all the crime bitches stuff, make sure you're following us. And again, if you're not following, just click the follow button because it'll post a little thing to you every time we post something so you don't have to search for us. And other than that, I think this is the part where I'm just going to say thanks so much for joining us on this journey. For now, all I have left to say is catch you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye, bitches.